Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tanitra. Coming up on today's show, DeJounte Murray is out for 2 weeks, and this might be the worst case scenario for the Atlanta Hawks.
And they finally made a change at QB1 up in Flowery Branch, but now what?
And last but not least, and for the culture, Odell Beckham said, "What?" That's all coming up next, right here on ATL Day Ones. Let's go.
This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
Just want to start off by saying thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listener of the day. Remember, we're free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. Really appreciate that from you in advance. And today's episode of ATL Day Ones is brought to you by Bet Online. T, it just seems like it just keeps getting worse for the Atlanta Hawks because we found out yesterday that DeJounte Murray is going to be out for at least 2 weeks.
Mhm.
We know how it is with the Hawks sometimes. You know, they might be a little bit longer than that or it might be a little bit shorter than that. But we at least know that at least he's going to be out for 2 weeks. And not only that, Trae Young wasn't feeling well yesterday. According to a report by Lauren Williams for the AJC, who covers the Hawks on a very thorough basis. Appreciate her for that. She said that Trae Young did not practice. He stayed at the hotel because he wasn't feeling well. T, who's going to be on the court tonight for the Atlanta Hawks?
That is such a great way to put it. Like, okay, so who are we going to count on? Now, we did get the most recent updated injury report, right? And DeAndre Hunter and Trent Forrest have both been upgraded to questionable. So, hey, that's somewhat encouraging, if
Glimmer
you
of
will.
hope.
Right. I'll keep watching to see if questionable goes to probable and if probable goes to available. So that should bring some help. But then I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of concerned. And on the other hand, don't really want, especially Dre, to come back because I don't want him coming back too early. That was
Right.
already an injury that was lingering and just kind of finally caught up to him last week. So if he needs to go a few extra days, at this point, it's going to literally be 1 and 5 as your starters. It's going to be the bookends of Trae Young and Clint Capella, and everybody else just mixes in anyway. So for me, I, who takes the court or who starts is going to be very interesting. We're probably going to look at AJ Griffin back in that lineup. We're probably going to see Jalen Johnson as well. We can prepare for that.
Right.
Just don't know what in the world that means for the Hawks. And Jarvis, not just in this game, because this is not just a one game situation. This is almost feeling like 2021 all over again.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like we kind of hinted at, right? Because a lot of people try and been calling for Nate McMillan's job and all that
Mhm.
stuff, and was like, okay, the injuries,
Yeah.
and that they kind of, we kind of chalked the season up last year to injuries, and
Hmm.
is management and ownership gonna accept that at this
Right.
point? And I think that when you have Trey out,
Hmm.
Trey potentially being out. Sorry,
Right.
Trey. You know what I'm saying?
That's fair.
Trey potentially being out. DeJounte being out for the next 2 weeks. John Collins is going to be out for at least another week and a half or so.
Hmm.
So those are some of the things that I feel like that's hardcore stuff that you have to really pay attention to. And I think that with DeAndre Hunter coming back, I think that's a good look. But when you are talking about 80% of your or 60 to 80% of your lineup being out for a significant amount of time, that is going to hurt. I
Yeah.
don't care what anybody say. It's hard to argue against 60 to 80% of your starting lineup being out on for a long period of time.
And as we saw with the Hawks' efforts against the Rockets, as we saw with their efforts against the Thunder, as we saw with their efforts against the Magic, those teams that should be cupcake games by definition of NBA games, they
Right.
weren't.
Yeah.
So when you're now talking about you're going back to the Magic again, you got the Bulls Sunday and you got the Grizzlies on the road in between. I mean, and that's just for starters, Jarvis. That's just for
Right.
starters. It continues because they'll get the Bulls again and they're going to get the Nets again, if I'm not mistaken. So you've got a lot of games and they got the Lakers, a lot of games in there for like, say, this next 10 game stretch where you're going to see most of that time where JC is out, DJ is out, and like you said, Lord knows what this means for Trey. And if, God forbid, Dre Hunter comes back too soon, or Bogey's back too soon, because after that 0 for 14 performance where 10 of those were his 0 fors at the 3-point line, it really just made me like wonder, was his second game back an anomaly, and was his first and third games back more where he is physically?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, T, when it comes to the Atlanta Hawks, I think it's going to be a lot of patience have to be expressed from all parties, from players to coaches to management to ownership. It's going to be mostly
and fan base,
specific and the fan base as well. So, because like this is a hard thing to kind of deal with.
Yeah,
because we were waiting for Bogey to come back to see what that potential 6 man of the year looks like, right? That was what I had in my mind coming into the season. I was like, all right, once he gets healthy, this can be a guy that can help boost that shooting percentage, which is at 32% as a team, which is probably less than average in the NBA, in a 30-team league. So, those are some of the things that I feel like we want to have to wait around though. I think we're going to have to practice a little bit of patience, and I think that people will understand, okay, this is where this team is right now. They're dealing with a lot of crap on and off the court. They're going to need some time to work this bad boy out. That's for sure. So, but another thing that we don't have to worry about being worked out is the fact that Stetson Bennett had a really good year this year. And he's been on a solid 2 years. And I was reading the story in T that I thought was just so influential when you think about where he came from, and I know how I used to feel, and I'm almost feeling bad about how I used to evaluate Stetson Bennett, because I tend to kind of like see what the guys will be on the next level in the NFL, because that's kind of how I kind of look at guys from a talent evaluation standpoint. Okay, how would this dude be in the NFL? But I think that just evaluating Stetson Bennett for what he is and what he's accomplished in college, like there's no question as to his abilities and capabilities and what he's been able to accomplish on the field. But I think the cool thing about Stetson, though, and I want to get your opinion on this, I really feel like he just has a story to tell.
Oh yeah, no question.
You know what I'm saying? Like this is just it's almost movie like, and he's been, and I think almost not almost. Sorry, it's still a little old Jarvis in there, right? This dude, life has been a straight up movie. T, like, how do you even put that into words from not only going through it, experiencing it himself, but just his mom and his dad talking about the experience and everything? It just seems like it's just unreal.
Yeah, especially because when you hear Stetson Bennett talk about his goals, his dreams, his aspirations, not to say that he was limiting himself, but you never really heard him talk about the NFL. You've heard his parents, friends, and even him talk about UGA. That was always the goal. That was the destination for him. So I think that's a huge piece there, because like you said, most of us probably discounted him because we were comparing him to the ultimate measure, which is, can you be, will you be, are you NFL ready?
Right.
Maybe that's not for everybody. Maybe folklore for him is UGA and being the greatest to ever, the best to ever do it, because, he's not the greatest as far as the greatest QB ever. That's up for debate. Right. But you could say he's the best ever, because who in the heck has won that much? And when you look at his numbers and think about getting those numbers in the third quarter, because typically they tapped him out at the third quarter. But yeah, that story, even getting the Burlsworth Award a couple of days ago for walk-ons, like that's the whole point of the award.
Right,
Best walk-on in the entire country. So to say that you're the best walk-on in the entire country and your story is like it is, and it ends up as a Heisman Trophy story, even if he's not the winner, by the way, I think if dude doesn't place fourth, he won. Like, for real, it's a win for him.
Yeah, and I think that's the main thing, right? Like, because the more and more you look at what he does, if you really dig into the numbers and you look at what he did against the Oregons and the Tennessees and the LSUs of the world, he lit they butt up. T, like that dude was, you talking about clutch and like I said, when the lights were the brightest, Stetson Bennett shined, and I think that he had Heisman moments. I think people just were ignoring them. So I think that if we're going to really find out once they the results come out, I think ultimately Caleb Williams wins the Heisman Trophy, but we're going to understand, depending on where Stetson end up being placed, how deep, how thoughtful these voters are when it comes to evaluating whether or not these guys deserve to be the winner of that award. And I think that that's going to be something that we're definitely going to keep an eye on. And also, got to give a real quick shout out to Brock Bowers. He won the Mackey Award for the best tight end in the country. Shocking, right? Like I'm probably Darnell Washington should have been right behind him. God dog it, because that dude, I can't wait to see what he did. Right, very good. Those guys are excellent blockers, just all around tight ends. I just love to see it. Watching those guys on each and every Saturday. We'll get a chance to check them out on December the 31st on New Year's Eve against the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Yeah.
If you're trying to figure out how to win some money for that bad boy,
how about this? Before we take him to the win, we got to shout out our other guys because they were recognized by Walter Camp last night as well. Shout out to Jalen Carter, shout out to Chris Smith, because those guys are beasts. We know Jalen Carter is going to be in the conversation in April.
My favorite player.
Yeah, exactly. So, I was like, my guy. Did Jarvis just like skip over his guy?
Yes, I did.
He just wanted to kind of give them a world of credit because that was they were acknowledged last night for winning. And also, for that matter, Brock Bowers made the second team for Walter Camp. So once again, Georgia just getting accolades on top of accolades.
As well they should. They deserve it. When you talk being on the brink of winning back-to-back national championships, we haven't seen that since the mid-90s. like it's been a long time since we've seen something like that. So yeah, this is something that we're definitely going to be keep an eye on. But yeah, you're trying to figure out what it is, what's going on December 31st. The Georgia Bulldogs taking it on Ohio State Buckeyes. You want to get all the information that's going to get you right? Go to betonline.net, because it is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. You guys check us out each and every day for all your ATL sports needs. Yeah. Go to BetOnline because they have podcasts with pertinent information that's going to help you win some money. So head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today, because BetOnline is where the game starts.
Yes, it does. And for a lot of people, whether you look at it as where the season starts, where the game starts, or where the evaluation process starts, that would be next Sunday, December 18th in my hometown, as the Falcons head to take on the Saints, whatever. And y'all know y'all love my town. You might not love the team, but y'all love my town. Don't play. So, but Desmond Ridder, we'll see if he hates it or loves it, because he will be under center getting the start next Sunday. As we broke that news yesterday and kind of shared with you guys our instant reaction, we also had some more deep dive thoughts on it as well. And so Jarvis, kind of going back to that question, here's the interesting thing. So many people sit on different sides of where they feel Desmond Ridder should be, whether it's next week or after the 4-game stretch. Should he stay in that starter position for the remainder of the season? And I can't see him not being in that starter position for the remainder of the season, right? So if you look at it that way, kind of thinking out loud, what are you looking for? Let's go to the first game and then let's expand it to the 4 games, because I do think those expectations might be a little bit different.
You be honest with you, like the first game for me, being that Arthur Smith is a guy that we know is going to run the football regardless of who's on the center, right? I don't think nobody can argue against that. Some people may try to find one, but don't even try. He's a 12 personnel guy, 2 tight ends, run that bad boy and get in some play action, right? And I think that's what I'm looking for. I want to see after they have some success running the football, when they start going to play action, when they start taking shots downfield, accuracy. The accuracy on the deep ball. That's what I'm looking for, because I think that, Arthur Smith made a decision to mostly because, hey, the playoff chances are slim, and he basically said he's seen enough of Marcus Mariota, right? However you want to take that. But I think that the main reason why is what I saw in preseason. I'm going off of what I saw. I like what I saw when you're talking about arm strength
Mm-hmm.
and connecting with his wide receivers
Right.
deep down the field. That I think Desmond Ritter did a solid job,
Mhm.
regardless of who he's throwing to, whether
Right.
that be a sales clerk or assurance salesman. Who cares?
Mhm.
He got it there and he put it right where it needed to be in order for those guys to make a play. So
Yes.
I think that's the first thing that I'm going to be looking for, because I think that Desmond Ritter was better than Marcus Mariota in
Mhm.
that particular specific category, and I
Yeah.
think that's going to be I feel like it's going to be a nice fit in the first game against New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, I would say the same. And we talked about that. I mentioned that yesterday as well. So I'm going to stick to agreeing with the fact that I want to see another stretch of like 7 runs, because 7 seems to be that number that we
Yeah,
keep going with
I'm fine
other
with that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna stuff it down your throat 7 times, and then once he's worn you down, and once he gets you to thinking that the 8th play is going to be a run, then boom, there it is, play action time. And we both talked about yesterday the pain of seeing where the ball landed when Drake London could have easily taken it to the house. I don't think that same thing happens if Desmond Ritter is throwing that ball. As long as he gets the right protection up front, then he'll be fine. So got to win some battles in the trenches next week as well, in order for us to see what he's really made of in that one area where we think he has an advantage. Now, as far as the 4-game stretch goes, I think for me it's this: as long as he shows progression, and that can be in any area, Jarvis, that can be in decision making, whether you have to throw the ball away at a point, that can be in making the decision to run down the field when all of your options are covered, and speaking of that, I guess 2A would be that, and 2B would be therefore you've read through your progressions, because we know that's not exactly a thing. But reading through his progressions, because honestly, I don't think he's not Mariota, but I also don't think people give him enough credit to be able to scramble and be able to run and get himself out of trouble. And the third thing is, if he does get in trouble, let's say he has a really bad start, right? A first half where he interceptions, he gets sacked, QB hits and all that. What does it look like the second half of that Saints game? And then what do we see as, I'll say, mental mistakes or decision making that doesn't go well in game 1? Does it progress in games 2, 3, and 4? That's what I'm looking for.
And I think you make a really good point, because I think that Desmond Ritter is the type of guy that I want him to stay true to himself. And I think that whether he throws a pick or whether, Arthur Smith gets on him, and we talk, and it was very well documented how much he got on him in the preseason game. And Desmond Ritter was like, hey, that's a part of the game, and I get it, and I understand. And that's the type of stuff, those are the type of responses that I want to see. Not only, saying, hey, yeah, my coach gonna get on me. Hey, it happens. But guess what? I'm gonna stay true to who I am, and I want him to take those chances, because at the end of the day, that can be an asset for you. The guy being able to squeeze the ball in there, and I know for a fact Desmond Ritter will be able to do that. We saw that. I saw that going to training camp and in the preseason games. He will try to squeeze the ball in there. And I have no issue with that. So I want him to just stay true to who he is, and if he makes a mistake, hey, flush that bad boy and keep it moving, and still try to go out there and make plays.
Indeed, I agree. And I think another thing that I'll be kind of looking for is kind of what's his bounce back, and what's the bounce back, and what's the tone and the timbre of the rest of the team, right? Because we kind of saw coming out of the gates, and for weeks and weeks and weeks, there was positive feedback, right, on Mariota. Like, the offense was squarely behind him, his receivers, his tight ends, his running backs, everybody was in support of him as being their leader and being QB1, and we're riding with him. Okay, now that you got a different one, let's see how all of what we saw, the maturity, right? The embracing leadership from Desmond Ritter. Let's see if we get to see that one more time this coming Sunday. It'll be very, very interesting. And you know what else is interesting? Locked On Sports Today, guys. Anytime you can get a look into Locked On Sports Today, you should check them out, because they'll take a story like this, and of course we look at it from our local perspective, but they can look at it from a national perspective as well, or they'll talk about and give instant reaction to what in the world Baker Mayfield did on Thursday night that we had not seen in forever, right? So just like we have For the Culture, they've got the take of the day, and you can check that out where you check us out, the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you download your podcast. And the other thing you can do, hopefully next weekend, you're eating it in celebration of a good game from Desmond Ritter. But if not, Built Bar works for you regardless. So make sure that you go to built.com, look for the code LOCKEDON15. That's the code you can use for your first order. And remember, that's 100% real chocolate. And remember, it's a protein packed bar, 15 grams of protein and only 160 calories. I mean, my goodness, you can use it to keep you stressed. You're stress low free. I don't want you stressed out. Keep your stress down, but also cool stocking stuffers for the Christmas holiday and holidays overall. Check out built.com.
Locked On Sports Atlanta family. Where have you been all of our lives? You guys been here. I know at least 5,000 of you guys have been here because we have like 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. You guys have been liking and subscribing to our YouTube channel. We really appreciate you for that. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, be a part of the movement to get us to 6,000. Go ahead and do that. Also, one more thing. If you want to get in contact with the show, if you're watching, listening out there, obviously you are, if you can hear me, atlday1s@gmail.com. 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 That might be a song. That sounds like a little catchy little hook. But anyway, you want to get in contact with the show, atlday1s@gmail.com. We really appreciate you for that. But T, this is for the culture. It is the intersection between sports, entertainment, the culture, and sometimes whatever. Here we want to talk about. That's how we get down on this show. Today is no different. We all know that Odell Beckham has been, kind of politicking, trying to figure out where he's gonna play and whether or not he's gonna come back. He obviously had an injury later on in last season, so that's why he's been kind of rehabbing and trying to make sure everything is all 100%. So lately, he's taken a couple of visits. He visited the Cowboys, and he was asked about whether or not he wants to, get back on the field right now. And I thought he had a very interesting answer. Here's the question and the answer.
You ready to go? And you don't got to tell us, though we would appreciate if you did on the shop. Have you made the decision up in your own head of where you're going? And are you ready?
I haven't made the decision, and for me, it's like I would like to be in a stable environment, get up 6 a.m., leave at 6 p.m. for 4 weeks, and then let's talk about it. I've played football for a long time. Like, I'm not saying that I couldn't step in and play regular season, but I don't see the point. I really don't. Like, I would rather play when that pressure's on. I would rather play when the lights is on. Like, I went through the whole playoffs, and after having my first bad playoff experience, like, all I was ready for was to clear that off my name.
Okay, Trae Young.
Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness. All right, so wow. T, you got me with that one. So for people, we talked about early on in the show about how Trae Young wasn't feeling well and he didn't practice, so he stayed at the hotel. And Odell Beckham sitting up here in the shop. Yeah, man, I don't need to play no full game while I'm out there by the playoff. Man, come on. What are we doing here?
That's a tough one. And they're
come on, man.
But I would say they're polar opposites because I think they're in different spaces, right? It appears.
Of course.
Follow me on this one. So with Odell, okay, you were much of the reason that the Rams won that Super Bowl last year because you got injured in the first half, but you played the rest of the first half injured. And so you were very much a critical component of them getting that ring, right? So you kind of have a little bit of a cachet to do as you will. That's why everybody's been courting you and chasing you the entire season because they saw what you did in your one season with the Rams. You and Von Miller, you guys were the hired guns to get them where they wanted to be. Indeed. So, okay, we'll give you a little cachet for being that guy. And he knows that at the end of the day, whomever he lands with is just trying to do that same thing, maybe just in a compressed space. So, okay, I don't agree with it at all. That's some foolishness because that makes it seem like you too are thinking that it's all about just the postseason. But on the same token, maybe you have a little trepidation because of that injury, right? And maybe you're thinking, if I'm going to go out there and
not willing to admit to that part, right?
That's what I think. That's exactly what I think. Like, if I'm going to put myself in harm's way and I know I'm not 100%, it's only going to be for a certain stretch with a certain team that I think is almost a certainty to go to the Super Bowl. Whereas with Trey, I think his comment was more of just, I don't think, and we say this in jest, but in the reality, I don't think his comment was nearly as salacious as people made it out to be, right? I think he was just saying like, it's just not as fascinating. It's not as exciting. It doesn't just, the regular season just didn't get a rise out of him, which, I mean, that's the true. A lot of things are ratcheted up in the postseason. However, I think in hindsight, he realizes A, that wasn't quite the comment to make, and B, when the season then seems like it followed up with that commentary, then you come back this season and we expect greatness because you said basically that you learned your lesson. So with him, I think he understands now, no, you're going to have to bring your game up in the regular season. And you said it a couple days ago, like, it's not at this point, it's not next man up. It's you. You are the next man. So yeah, this go round, maybe more so than any go round, because that Eastern Conference has tightened up and tightened up and tightened up. This is where, no, you won't be able to do an OBJ. You got to get into it. You got 80, not 82 now, because of course they played around 25 games, but I mean, you essentially have about 55, 60 chances to get this thing right so that you can get to where we sincerely think Trae Young, DJ, and company can get to, which is in that upper echelon, that 1 through 4, so that they can at least have that opening round. But yeah, okay, OBJ, okay.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like with OBJ, and as you kind of like, you have that tone, T, that soothing tone that kind of just ease me down a little bit. So so I'm with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you win a Super Bowl, you can kind of pick and choose, where you want to go. And obviously he has an asset that teams that are competing for Super Bowls want. I get that. That's cool. I don't have I don't have a problem with that at all. I'm cool on that. It's just the fact that it came out of OBJ's mouth.
Yes,
like,
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like if somebody well respected, like let's just say for instance, not Terrell.
Yeah, like if Larry
Fitzgerald said,
higher gun.
You know what, I'm cool. I just wait for a little while.
Yeah.
Everything, see how things work, and then get right for the playoffs.
Yeah.
Nobody would have had a problem. It would have been a peep. But when you jump onto this Trae Young thing now, like, I've been feeling some type of way about some of his actions lately. And when you lose to OKC, you lose to New York Knicks, you have all the story and stuff leaked out that from your camp, which I wholeheartedly believe. I don't have any inside information on that, but I believe it came from your camp, because it made Nate McMillan seem like a butthole. So we'll get into that a little bit later on. But when you have, and you ain't won, Jack, you ain't won nothing. You ain't won no doggone championship ring. So yeah, I hope on Monday when we come back on ATL Day Ones that we're talking about Trae Young at least being in the game.
Yes.
And then hopefully he can show that, hey man, I still got it. I'm not letting all this stuff get to me from a mental standpoint, and he get out of this doggone shooting slump from 3-point line.
Yeah, and I love what you said, that he at least shows that effort, because really that entire team, especially those younger guys, they're going to be looking to see if he's, conceding because 3 of the starters are out, or is he saying, no, we're going to battle, because on any given night, any given team can win with any given lineup. And I certainly hope they think that. But speaking of on any given night, anything can happen. Boy, there are some serious battles at Center Parc Stadium this weekend. We've got about 5 high school finals championship games to play this weekend. So good luck to all of our high school athletes out there. Whew. There is even one that's undefeated. There's Langston Hughes and Gainesville. That's probably the one everybody has their eye on tonight, because that's a couple undefeated. And Langston Hughes has been eyeing that thing since they got literally just edged out by a hair last season for that title. So good luck to all you guys who are hanging out at Center Parc Stadium this weekend. Be safe, have a good time, and just get it done.
Y'all come back now, you hear?